Hello class, this is Tanya Andalus. Today we are going to discuss the different bases of power that are often seen in healthcare organizations utilized today, as well as the positive impacts they can have when you exercise those powers, also while engaging in Mintzberg's political game-playing framework. To start off with, let's discuss the different bases of power. First, there are individual bases of social power. They are coercive power, legitimate power, referent power, expert power, and reward power. Coercive power is when you have, for example, a nurse who knows that the manager has the ability to punish them if they don't meet their expectations. The nurse perceives or knows that that manager can reprimand them if they don't meet those expectations. So that manager has coercive power over the nurse. Legitimate power is a true power derived from the authority. The fact that the manager is a manager and the nurse is a subordinate under them, that hierarchy gives the manager legitimate power. Referent power would be if the nurse attributes power to the manager because of the respect that they have for their manager. They see them as a true leader. They trust what they have to say. They trust the manager. So therefore, there is referent power that is given to the manager from the nurse. There's expert power, say that a physician has just by having that specialized knowledge from all those years of school and hands-on practice. Then you have reward power, where the manager has that power because they can reward good processes, good product improvement, good nursing skills with recognition. So they have the power to reward. Those are individual bases of social power. So that was coercive power, legitimate power, referent power, expert power, and reward power. Some structural power bases that we often see are information power, where the source of organizational influence accruing to individuals who have or have access to information that is valued or difficult to obtain. We're going to discuss that a little bit later in this presentation. You also have decision power given to those who have the ability to make decisions on behalf of the organization. And you have resource power given to those who control the resources within the organization, something as high as staff and something to as low as paper that goes into the printer and how that is controlled. It comes down, a lot of times it comes down to money, the bottom of the resources. When we talk about positive impacts on an organization when power is exercised, especially in Mintzberg's political game-playing framework, I'm going to discuss how my team utilized the Young Turks political game in order to change the department from being stagnant and stifled to one that is truly vibrant and growing. There can be many positive impacts on an organization when both agents and recipients exercise their sources of power and play the political games within Mintzberg's political game playing framework. In my current position, I started out as a consultant. I was hired to help my organization navigate its way out of sanctions. When I first started as a consultant, it was very clear early on in the assignment that the managers exercise a directive leadership style. In a directive leadership style, followers are told what to do and are instructed on how to carry out their tasks. In my current situation, it was daily tasks. Now, my team is made up of a very educationally diverse group of individuals. Educations range from high school diplomas. We have LPNs to BSNs, as well as those who have master's degrees, as well as law degrees. So these individuals are ones who can really take information, utilize it, follow direction, and really should have autonomy. But they were really stifled in their ability to grow because every day when they had a question about a process, they had to go to their managers. And they would go to their managers either by email or instant messaging because they did not have a database or a warehouse where standard operating procedures were housed or SOPs. So the first thing that we did was we knew that we had to either change the way leadership thought about engaging with their associates or change leadership. So in my current situation, we had all employees that had to get direct instruction from two co-managers who often had conflicting instruction. When questions about the given process, the managers could often be heard saying on multiple occasions that this is how it's always been done. Like I said, we had many individuals who were highly educated. So when they were posed with an answer that didn't make sense and they wanted more information so that they understood to get that knowledge, they were often just told, well, this is how it's always been done. This is how we've always done it. Mind you, they were in sanctions at this time. So what they've always done was not correct. They often try to attempt to make it customer centric by having everybody ask, what would you do if this was your mother or father? How would you want them to be treated? Now, although this came from a very good place, oftentimes it was not concise, and it was not the same across the board. So oftentimes they were not following government regulations, which ended up having the company obtaining caps and demerits from the government, and then eventually leading them into sanctions. The former leaders were unable to adapt to their leadership styles and strategies to meet the needs of the various complex situations, such as correctly addressing the various demerits received before falling into sanctions. So even though they were getting instruction from the government that, hey, you really need to look at this better, instead of really going in and digging deep into what are they asking for, it was, okay, well, how can we try to make this happen? It didn't appear when we came in that there was much research done into the regulations on how they came up with their decisions. Now, like I said, the managers would have employees, if they had a question, email or instant message them the question, and both managers would be on the email. Sometimes the email would come back from one manager with one answer, and maybe days later, the other manager would see that email and come back with a conflicting answer. This caused many associates to create what is known as a CYB folder, or a cover your bum folder, because they were constantly getting in trouble for completing a task by one manager that they were told to do by another manager. When we saw this happening, my team of consultants knew that we had to develop or engage in a Young Turk style type of political game per se, because we knew we had to either change their thinking or we had to change management in order for us to move forward. The two managers that co-managed this department really took a hold of that informational power, because they were the ones that guarded the information for those day-to-day tasks. They required their employees to reach out to them with every question, instead of having a house where they can put all standard operating procedures or SOPs so that their educated individuals, and even some of their lower educated individuals, would be able to go out onto a platform, onto a website, to be able to answer simple questions on how to format a letter, who should notifications go out to when we're trying to notify the member. These are things that the government regulates very heavily, how we notify our members. And it was something that was not standardized within our department. So the first thing my team did was remove the barrier of informational power at the organizational level. And we did that by compiling the frequently asked questions and government regulations, and creating those standards operations of procedures, so that we can put those, so we can house those, so that individuals can go out and seek the information for themselves, so they did not have to stop and wait for an answer from a manager. This empowered our employees to really dive deep into why they were doing what they were doing. And it really showed when they were able to ask those questions and get that feedback. Now, before the onboarding of my current manager, like I said, employees were saving emails and instant messages. So one of the issues with that is one day one employee might ask a question and a manager may give them an answer, and the next day an employee may ask the other manager and they may get a different question, meaning that they do not have standard of operation procedures along the board, and also meant that people were doing it differently and taught new oncoming employees to do it differently. In my department, it's really important, especially since we're so heavily regulated by the government, that all our operations really need to be standardized. So that is the first thing we did. We opened up the gates of information. We had employees who were thirsty for that knowledge. And my current manager, who replaced the two former co-managers, really engaged and empowered the employees to not only ask questions, but help give answers to the questions. He really allowed employees to collaborate with upper leadership on the whys of what we were doing, because that is what the employees were hungry for. They wanted to know why we did everything that we did. They wanted that buy-in. They wanted to have it. But with the informational power that was utilized with withholding previous information, they were starved of getting that why, and they weren't exactly getting that buy-in. The current manager is an empowering leader. Empowering leadership involves sharing power with subordinates and raising their level of autonomy and responsibility, and it manifests through specific behaviors such as encouraging subordinates to express opinions and ideas, promoting collaborative decision-making, and supporting information sharing and teamwork. It really has caused our department to do a 180. We went from one of the worst departments that had numerous caps and had never passed an appeal to being one of the better departments in our company, and actually receiving a reward this past year for our improvement. We actually consider our department to be leader makers. We want to empower our employees to get that knowledge from our department and be able to climb the ladder and take the knowledge from our department and bring it into other departments so that it can enhance the organization as a whole. And that really started from our new manager, who wanted to use the knowledge of the employees and the autonomy and the intrinsic motivation from the employees had, that they really wanted to do a good job. But our team is a team of employees who naturally ask questions. So when we ask questions and we aren't given a satisfying answer on why we do it, it really started to kind of break down on, am I using what I went to school for? Am I using my knowledge? Am I really being challenged here? And it really affected the morale. Once the information channels were opened up and employees knew that their decisions were important, or their ideas were important, the ideas were ever flowing, and management is really open to that. They're also very good at engaging in the entire department and being the exact 180 of the stifling environment that we had before. Studies have shown that directive leadership, previous leadership that was there, may initially outperform empowering leaders due to the micromanaging to get the task done. But empowering leaders can achieve those results, such as higher performance improvement, but they do it for the long run because they get into why we do what we do. They answer those intrinsic questions that the employees have so that they can feel empowered and fulfilled in their job. So in conclusion, our department went from directive leadership who exercise informative power to empowering leadership who really took down that information power, who opened up the gates so that we could thrive on the knowledge base that we have.